He's taken it safely, and the Ashes are regained by England.
And another memorable victory for England.
He's out! 10 wickets to Baker.
Botham, 9 wickets for Malcolm.
David Gower about to face his first ball in Test cricket.
England have won.
It's gone straight into the confectionery stall and out again.
Never before will Graham Gooch have left the field to this sort of reception.
England won a memorable victory with probably 2 balls to go.
It's all over, and it is one of the most fantastic victories ever known in Test cricket history.
Much has been said and written in recent years about the plight of English cricket. But in fact, over the last 40 years or so, which although I hate to admit it is roughly the time that I've been watching the game, there have been many great moments for English players and English teams, and many an occasion to celebrate. And that's what we're going to do now, starting with the year 1952 and the first appearance in Test cricket of a bowler who was to become one of the all-time greats, F.S. Truman. In front of his home crowd against India, he took 3 wickets in 8 balls as India were reduced to 0 for 4 wickets in their second innings.
Many equally destructive performances were to follow, none more so than a spell of 5 for 0 against Australia at Leeds in 1961.
To Bobby Simpson, who's bowled, offering a pretty flowery stroke. 6 wickets gone. In this spell, Freddie Truman, 3 for none. 4 for none, a tremendous match-winning spell. Richie Benaud, poor man, has bagged a pair. So we'll see if that obdurate man Mackay can stick. He can't, it's all over, he's caught behind. It's tremendous, 5 wickets for no runs. In terms of statistics, Freddie Truman's greatest feat to date in a Test match, and it's completely swung this match.
Fred was leading the way again in 1963 at Edgbaston against the West Indies. This time, a 24-ball spell yielded 6 wickets for just 4 runs.
So another one, 4 for none. Wes Hall very comprehensively bowled. Is it out? Yes, the umpire taking time. Griffith out as well. Nothing can stop Truman now for a second time in his Test career. 5 wickets for no runs. And Solomon swings and he's caught behind, and it's 6 wickets in this spell for 4 runs.
The records began to tumble, and in 1964 at the Oval, Truman became the first bowler to take 300 Test wickets.
That's it, he's out! Truman's got it, 300 Test wickets. And the batsman, the first to applaud him.
There's no greater tradition in cricket than the Ashes, and many of England's finest moments in Test cricket have come against Australia. But in 1953, coronation year, England had gone 18 years and 362 days without having beaten Australia in a series. When they came to the Oval after 4 draws, they had a very tense contest, and after the 2 first innings, England led by just 31 runs.
At 59 for 1 in their second innings on the 3rd day, the Australians still had a mountain to climb when a combination of the left-arm spin of Tony Locke and the off-breaks of Jim Laker sent them reeling to 85 for 6. Despite a valiant stand of 50 between Archer and Davidson, the Australians were all out for 162, with the Surrey pair taking 9 wickets on their home ground. Hutton went early with the score on 24, but first May and then Compton stayed with Edridge to steer England past 131 and so to gain a memorable victory on the 4th afternoon.
4 runs to get. No, is it the Ashes? Yes, England have won the Ashes. And the race of all time, what a scene here. No policeman can hope to stop this.
Great scenes of jubilation and a great personal triumph for Len Hutton, England's first professional captain.
Australia toured England in 1956 and they went 1 up in the Lord's Test match. When they went to Old Trafford for the third test, England won the toss and scored 459 with centuries from Peter Richardson and David Shepherd. Then it rained, and on a helpful pitch, Jim Laker produced probably the most remarkable bowling performance in the history of the game.
Yes, he's out LBW.
And without adding a run, Mackay is out. Caught Oakman, bowled Laker.
And he's caught by Oakman.
Bowling round the wicket, Laker took 9 first innings wickets for 37 runs as Australia collapsed from 48 for no wicket to 84 all out.
Archer is Laker's next capture.
Ron Archer, stumped by Evans.
And then Maddox is bowled Laker. "84 for 9, with Laker bowling himself into cricket history. And he makes sure of it by bowling Ian Johnson, and so takes 9 wickets for 37 runs, something no Englishman has ever done before against Australia.
When they followed on, the tourists fared little better. This time, Laker took all 10, with Oakman helping out with 3 catches.
Oakman.
And for the first time since 1905, England had beaten Australia twice in a home rubber.
Victim number 6 is Archer, caught Oakman, bowled Laker.
Oakman.
All this time, MacDonald is batting well, but when he's hit 89, he too becomes bowled Laker. 7 wickets so far to Laker, and now it's Benno, bowled Laker.
He bowled him.
198 for 8, and all 8 bowled Laker. And 20 minutes later, Linville too falls to the leg trap, bowled Laker.
He caught him, is he? Is he out? No. Yes, he's out. He's given out, waiting for the appeal.
Can Laker get all 10? That's the question everyone's asking as he bowls to Maddox.
He's out. 10 wickets to Laker.
And it's Australia, bowled Laker.
Incredibly, Laker had already taken 10 wickets in an innings that season for Surrey. The opponents on that occasion, Australia again.
In 1950, the West Indies had beaten England in England for the first time, with the 3 W's and Sonny Ramadhin and Alf Valentine to the fore. Sonny Ramadhin was perhaps the real mystery spinner of the 1950s. At Edgbaston in 1957, he took 7 for 49, and when the West Indies replied with 474, it really looked as though England were totally doomed. But Colin Cowdrey and Peter May came together in one of the great partnerships of Test history. 411 they put on.
May indeed, after a cautious start, played the innings of a lifetime, completely mastered the West Indian attack, and totally reversed the prospects of the match. He reached his century, but that was nothing. The English captain went on to pass his 200 and then his 250. His partnership with Colin Cowdrey, who made 154, was a record smasher at 411 runs. From fighting a losing battle, England only just missed victory. A stupendous effort, with Peter May the supreme hero.
England went on to win that series by a clear 3 tests. Cowdrey made successive 150s, and Tom Graveney 258 at Trent Bridge and 164 in the final test at the Oval.
In that match at the Oval, the West Indies were dismissed for 89 and 86. Once again, it was the Surrey pair, Laker and Locke, who dominated, taking 16 wickets as the West Indies, for the 3rd time in the series, were beaten in 3 days.
When the West Indies returned under Frank Worrell in 1963, the spin threat of Ramadhin and Valentine had been replaced by the much more physical one of the great fast bowling pair Wes Hall and Charlie Griffith.
Both physically dominating, Hall and Griffith were an intimidating sight for any batsman. Hall had the classical action and was consistently fast and hostile, delivering the ball at speeds once measured up to 91 miles per hour. Griffith's chest-on action was to cause him controversy throughout his career. Many thought he threw his faster ball, though he was only called twice for it during his career. Where Hall was good-tempered, Griffith earned a reputation as the bad boy of cricket, not wholly justified. In that tour of 1963, the West Indies went one-up in the first test at Old Trafford, where Lance Gibbs spun them to victory with match figures of 11 for 157. The West Indies went to Lord's, seeking to consolidate their advantage. It was to prove one of the great test matches. The West Indies scored 301 with 50s from Rowan Canai and Joey Solomon, and England replied with 297, just 4 runs behind. Dexter, Barrington and Titmus were their main contributors. The West Indies then made 229 in their second innings with a brilliant 133 from Basil Butcher. And in the second innings, Colin Cowdrey broke his arm batting against Wes Hall with the backdrop of the pavilion. It looked like a lost cause for England.
I was very lucky to have captained. I wasn't on the field all the time because Charlie Griffith hit me on this left knee, which I've been feeling ever since. I can feel it right now. I've had another arthroscopy on the knee just recently. So I didn't field all the game, and I was struggling in the second innings. But there were so many marvellous things in the game. Weather interruptions, to an extent a rain-affected pitch, bad light, tremendous bowling, Brian Close taking all the flack from the fast bowlers, Colin Cowdrey's broken arm, and of course finally the most extraordinary circumstance where all 4 possible cricketing results were possible off the last ball. A win for either side, or a tie, or a draw.
On the 5th day, poor weather delayed the start of play. England still needed 118 with 7 wickets left, but Griffith and especially Hall bowled tirelessly as Brian Close alone stood defiantly in their path.
And that's going down for 4 runs. Nice leg ride, approved by the people in front of the tavern.
203 for 5, 31 wanted. And he's caught. He's caught by the middle of the short legs, McMorris.
Wickets fell steadily, but the runs were coming too. The news was that Cowdrey would bat if required.
He's caught, he's out, he's caught at the wicket. We could see that without the necessity of an appeal.
And he's caught, yes, he's caught behind the wicket by Murray. Close is out. Caught Murray, bowled Griffith for 70. England are 219 now for 8. Oh, well, that's all right. It's gone down to long leg, off his arm somewhere, but it all counts. He's dropped his bat. Lance Gibbs feels it. About 7.5 minutes left and 11 runs needed. And that's safe. It's dropped over the backward short leg, and they just take one. Yes, they're going to run. They'll run everything now, I'm sure of that. And Hall has followed right up there to the whole 22 yards. 7 runs then to win, and Shackleton with 4 on his name. 4 balls to go, 7 runs to win. Hall coming in now. Yes, they'll take one there. Garfield Sobers fielding down there. This is now 6 runs to win, 3 balls to go. 6 runs needed. Oh. Yes, they run! He's going to be run out, he must be! He'll never get there! He's out, he's run out! Shackleton's run out, but Cowdrey can still come in. Shackleton is run out, and of course, the run doesn't count, so it's still 6 runs to go, and 2 balls, and Cowdrey with one hand is going to come in. And the point being that David Allen has got the bowling.
That's the thing, Brian. He hasn't got to take the strike.
No, and he's going to block it, and the orders obviously are to save this game, which has come so close. And the last ball of this test match coming now. Paul will put everything into this. Look at him just gathering his last breath. Yes, they're sucking in there. And David Allen's heart beating, under doubt, very fast. Last ball now. It's a draw! It's a draw. England have saved the game. 6 runs short of victory.
Perhaps inspired, England steamrolled the West Indies in the next test at Edgbaston, Truman having match figures of 12 for 119 to set up a comprehensive victory. The West Indies were just too good for England in 1966, and they were generally regarded as the world champions in those middle 60s. But in 1967-68, England went into the Tour of the Caribbean in some disarray. Brian Close, who'd been successful as a captain, had offended many by delaying tactics in a match against Warwickshire for Yorkshire, and when he refused to apologise, MCC vetoed his captaincy. So Colin Cowdrey, with little confidence from the selectors, led the side, and to the surprise of many, they held the upper hand in each of the first 3 tests, but couldn't press home the advantage. The 4th test in Trinidad seemed to be drifting towards another draw when Gary Sobers sensationally declared, setting England 215 to win in 165 minutes. It was a chase that the England captain didn't particularly relish.
I think in the match, West Indies scored 530 in very, very hot weather, and that wearied us, and we just came back a bit. We made about 400. It was a very good wicket. But in that 400, which I got quite a lot, I think I got 148. But suddenly we were going well, and Rodriguez came on, who was a brilliant leg spinner and googly bowler and very dangerous, especially at Trinidad, because in Port of Spain, Trinidad, there was no sight screen at the pavilion end, and he was lethal. It wasn't just that he got 3 wickets in a hurry. He might have got 19 wickets in a hurry, because the way we all struggled against him. I was lucky enough to be in, and I struggled less than the others, but the new batsman, I mean, it could have been a sort of under 11 match at Prepscoot, you know, when you don't know what's happening. And Gary remembered this, and he reckoned that if he could have another go at us in the second innings, and it looked as if he was unlikely to, we were so bad at it that, you know, he could bowl us out for 10. I think he really did feel that. And on the last day, time was running out. We were eking out. We were dead tired. It was terribly, terribly hot. I remember it. And we got to lunchtime and realised there were only about 4 hours to go. I thought, oh, gosh, we've escaped here and survived. And then we go to Gower for the last match, which was a good wicket. And we have a good match, start again. We'd only been going about 20 minutes, and somebody on the field noticed, only Robin Holt noticed, that the players who were all out on the front as we'd left had dashed inside, and there was going to be a declaration. And quite honestly, it was the last thing I wanted. I was more tired, but I was being the captain, but and I was fearful of this chap, Willie Rodriguez. And they left us 215 to get in 2 3/4 hours, which in club cricket is a good declaration. In test cricket, when you're bowling overs very slowly, that's a lot to get. Then you could speed up the overs a bit with the spinners going if they're on top.
Colin Cowdrey, the century maker in the first innings, now coming in to see if he can perhaps increase the tempo a little bit.
I was so weary. I thought it was a pretty tall order. And it did hinge on the start, really. And others were saying, come on, you know, I think the others were saying, we'll have a little dart at it. If we have a chance, we'll get these, you know. Tom Gravely was particularly bullish. In fairness, the others were more optimistic than I was, but once we got a start, then it did start to look different. Unfortunately, I played well at a vital point.
Gibbs to Boycott on 49. That's his 50. Sobers fielding by the square leg umpire. 80 runs needed as Cowdrey faces Gibbs. And he's hit that hard and high, and it's going down the long on boundary, and it's 4 runs, well clear of all the fielders. England score 140 for 1. Chasing a target of 215, which means they need 75 in 55 minutes.
Sobers comes in, bows to Cowdrey, and he's played that one down to fine leg, and it's 4 more runs. 4 more runs to Cowdrey. Sobers in, bows to Cowdrey, and he's hit that through, and it's 4 runs. So England now need 47 runs for victory. Gibbs comes in, bows to Cowdrey, and he's hit that high, and he's going to be out. That's the end of Colin Cowdrey's magnificent innings. Caught Sobers, bowled Gibbs for 71. Gibbs comes in, bows to Boycott, and he's hit that high, and he's gone for 4 runs. 19 now for victory. Gibbs comes in, bows to Boycott, and he's cut that one down. It's 4 more runs. 9 runs for victory. In over even time, Gibbs comes in, bows to Dolabero, and he's inside edge, and he's gone down to fine leg, and they're going to take 2 runs. 3 runs needed now for victory. And it could well be that this is the last over of the day, of the match. And he's hit that to mid-wicket. They've taken one, and they're taking another one. 2 runs. Gibbs comes in, bows to D'Oliveira, and he's played it around the corner, and they're taking it. England have won. England won a memorable victory with probably 2 balls to go.
It was an extraordinary match. And of course, having won, Gary Sobers was held up to be the stupidest captain of all time. You know what it is, if you win, you're a champion. If you lose, you're an idiot. He was booed out of airports or somewhere and all that sort of thing. It was pretty wretched. But for us, it was, in a way, a lucky break. But we had deserved to be... We could have been 2 up early on. We should have won the first test. And we should have won the second test, actually. So we were morally up. And gradually they were climbing back.
England drew the 5th test mainly due to the resilience of Alan Knott, who joined his captain when England were 41 for 5 before lunch on the final day and was still there at the end. England lost their 9th wicket with 5 minutes to go, and Jones had to survive a final over from Gibbs for England to become holders of the Wisden Trophy for the first time.
Just 1 more ball to survive. The last ball of the match. The last ball of the match, Jeff Jones, 7 fielders round his bat. Gibbs comes in, bowls it, and he plays it down, and England have saved the match. Surely there's not time for another over. It's dead on 5:30 by the clock, and they're taking them off. England have saved the match, and England have won the 1968 Test series against the West Indies.
Victory gave England what was to be their last win in a series in the Caribbean, and it sent them home in optimistic mood for the visit of the Australians in 1968 under Bill Lorry. Australia won the first test at Old Trafford, and the second, which had a great build-up because it was the 200th between England and Australia, was unfortunately ruined by the weather. At least it was memorable for Colin Milburn's glorious 83.
And that is 6 runs. It's a nice time to join us with Milburn opening his shoulders and hitting it not just over the fence, but over the second lot of crowd and up onto the second tier of the grandstand.
Milburn then 7 fours and a glorious morning. And he's hooked that one for 4 runs down to the mound. A bouncer. Went like an absolute bullet.
Oh, I say, like a pistol crack. Tremendous shot again.
Australia were then bowled out for 78, and Colin Cowdrey's 3 slip catches took him past Wally Hammond's test record of 110.
Cowdrey's caught him. Cowdrey's caught his 3rd catch of the innings.
But weather ruined England's chances on the final day, as it did in the next 2 tests. England went to the Oval needing to win to square the series. Basil D'Oliveira and John Edridge both made over 150 and a large first innings total of 494. And although Bill Lorry made 135 for Australia, in fact the only 100 made by an Australian in that series, they were still 170 behind on first innings. They were eventually set 352 to win the game with just over a day to go. And at lunch on the final day, they appeared doomed at 85 for 5. And then the heavens opened. The ground was flooded, and England's chances seemed once again to have gone.
There was no possibility of going out again. And if I'd been an Australian, I think I would have been pretty miffed to see sort of hundreds of English supporters spiking the pitch, getting rid of the water, and making it possible to play. It was playable when we went out there, but only just. And I think Colin Cowdrey was the ringleader. I think he went and said, "Come on, lads."
Remarkably, the players were able to take the field at 4:45, but with only 75 minutes left to take the last 5 wickets.
There was no turn. In fact, Underwood bowled for quite a while, and he came off, as I remember, and D'Oliveira came on, and Dolly got the breakthrough, and then Underwood came back on, and by which time they were in a fair amount of strife, obviously, and with everybody round the bat.
D'Oliveira made the crucial breakthrough with just 40 minutes left, and then Derek Underwood took centre stage.
On I came, and suddenly 1 or 2 balls just got a little bit big. It never really turned. The ball just seemed to pitch and bounce just a fraction, as was shown by the fact that David Brown was catching people at short leg, not at slip, but at short leg as the ball went went on with the arm.
Brownie took a couple of amazing catches. I don't think it wasn't known as a close fielder. And he just sort of dived at the ball before the guy hit it, and it went into his hand.
14 minutes to go and 2 wickets to fall. Underwood to Gleeson.
Coming in round the wicket this time, Underwood. And he got him, bowled him, off stump, knocked out of the ground, and Australia are 120 for 9.
But John Inverarity was still there on 56, having batted for 4 hours, and the draw was only 5 minutes away.
Suddenly I bowled a quicker arm ball, and he just tried to pad up to it, and it would have knocked all 3 over, and great jubilation, and we'd won the Test match.
Appeal, he's out! He's out, WW! England have won, and the series is drawn.
England finally regained the Ashes on Railingworth's triumphant tour of Australia in 1970-71, with John Snow and Jeff Boycott very much to the fore. At home in 1972, they just about held on to the Ashes in a drawn series. And then in 1974-75, they ran into the whirlwind of Dennis Lillee and Jeff Thomson. It was a bruising experience. Several of our best batsmen came home shell-shocked. And in 1975, when Australia agreed to play a 4-match series after the inaugural World Cup, England were in trouble after losing the first test at Edgbaston. The selectors desperately looked round for someone to stop the rot.
The man they chose in John Arlott's memorable description was like a bank clerk going to war, 33-year-old David Steele, grey-haired, bespectacled, enjoying a benefit year at Northamptonshire. Steele had consistently figured high in the averages, but had been passed over by the selectors on several occasions.
His selection for the second test at Lord's coincided with the appointment of Tony Greig as captain of England in succession to Mike Denness, and it was a reflection of the fact that in his benefit year, David Steele was positively thriving on the extra commitment.
I was playing beautiful. I mean, I didn't think about it. You know, I'll go to the nets and I'll be thinking about where I'm going at night for the benefit, you know, what problem we're going to call in, do this, do that. But as soon as I got my gloves on and put the bat in the hand, I forgot completely. I was there. I was just in that wonderful... I was in a world of my own, really, in the middle. You know, my concentration was great, and just went out there. What were we doing? We were batting fine, put the pads on and sit there in the corner and probably thinking about the benefit. You're in, through the door, walked out on the arena, and I was in a world of my own.
The total was just 10 when Barry Wood was LBW, so Steele didn't have to wait long for his first appearance on the world's most famous cricket stage. Or so we thought.
I got lost getting to the wicket. I mean, it was... well, I never want to go through that again. I don't know, I was thinking about, you know, Woody's out, I'm on the move, went down the stairs, went down one too many, finished up in the toilets. Because I've got all the gear on, of course I couldn't really do anything in there, and I thought, it's quiet, I'd love to stay here. And I thought, no, I better get back, and I nipped up. And I found through, and when I went through this particular door, there was nobody about. It was incredible. There's 27,000 out there, and they're waiting for me. And Woody was coming out through the door. He's up there, up the top. He said, "What? I was trying to get out. Which way?" He said, "Through that door." He said, "I'm out," as I can see that. And through the door, I went through the long room, and they were all sitting on these seats, you see, all, you know. And I never forget. I walked down this, the entrance through this, and real Middlesex or something. Who's this old bugger? You know, they're playing like, you know, it was wonderful stuff. You know, you feel wanted, don't you, straight away. And I went out there and I just floated out on a cloud. I really did. I just rode in there and they were waiting for you there, you know. And who's this Groucho Marx? You know, all these statements you get. But I stayed around. I stayed around. It was a good wicket.
A 4 off his third ball and Steele was settled. Lillee was in tremendous form that first morning, accounting for Wood, Edrich, Amos and Gooch before England were past 50. But Greig's faith in Steele was rewarded, and his calm control against Dennis Lillee was just what the crowd were desperate to see.
What a great shot there by Dennis Steele. That's the way to play the bouncer. In position beautifully. That's the third time he's hooked him away. This boy is not frightened. A great shot to Dennis Steele.
I didn't care damn who bowled. And that Lord Test match, right, that first innings, I was in a little world of my own, if you know what I mean, and I just stood there and played. I never heard nothing. I never heard the crowd. My asset, when I look back, right, it was concentration, right? I could shut out anything. If I was playing well, all I saw was the bowler, right, and 22 yards, and that's all I needed, right? You went on, and it was just one of them things. I just went to the wicket and played and played.
He hooks in for four, and the crowd really enjoying this. Lilly dispatched for four.
It was such a fairy story debut for him, someone who'd been a journeyman county cricketer for, I don't know, 10, 15 years beforehand, suddenly was called up for Test cricket and was an instant success. So it was a great story, and I think a few people's eyes were raised and were a little bit surprised, but it was really good for David and great for the country.
England recovered from 49 for 4 to 315 all out. Steele made his debut 50, Gregg 96, Knott 69, and the match was drawn.
And this big Lord's crowd rising to him, they appreciate the display of guts and determination that we've seen here by David Steele today.
But it was the character shown by David Steele which had caught the public imagination, and come the third test at Headingley, he had an added incentive.
There was a committee man at Northampton who knew a butcher or was a big abattoir, as it was at a particular time, who offered me a lamb chop up to 50, right, and steaks after 50. I said, well, I'm an hungry man. And I said, it'll do me fine, you see, and I got this 73, right, and the telegrams were out at the time, and this chap sent this up to him, and he said, I owe you 50 lamb chops and 23 steaks. He said, take your time, the second innings, I'm running out of lamb. And so I thought, well, you better go and get some more lamb. I got 93 in the second innings.
England held an advantage of 153 on first innings, Steele top scoring with 73. The third day was the least exciting of the three, as England eked out 184 runs from 72 overs, Steele making 59 in the last 3.5 hours against some tight bowling.
He's beaten Gilmore this time, much to the relief of David Steele, because that single takes him through to yet another 50. What a consistent performer he's been.
I was 50 odd not out on the Saturday night, and I went in on the Monday morning with Tony Gregg, and we're in a position where we've got to get on with it a bit, you know, and push on. And Greggy, of course, did that, and of course I played, and we eased it around. And then Notty joined me later on. He played this marvellous 50-odd. I mean, he smashed them all over the flipping place, and it's even given me the inspiration to go dancing down to Ashley Mallet. You know what I mean? I was never a man of... I was a man what you might call positive in defence, but the attack bit was not really my motto. And I had this kind of inclination to try and hit the man for 6, right? And I did, right? I thought, come on, go down, go for it. And I hit him over long on. It went like a tracer bullet, you see, and I was very proud of that. And I thought, well, shall I do it again? I thought, no, don't get carried away. And then Notty played this one off Jeff Thompson. He kind of swatted it over midwick. He went for 6. He said, what have I done? I said, you've hit it many a mile. And I said, he won't be happy. I said, but if you can do it again, I mean, wonderful stuff. But I got to the 90s, and then I picked this one up off my leg stick, and Greg Chappell, he put it in his pocket at mid-wicket.
There was some very good cricket in that test match, but unfortunately I suppose it'll always be remembered as the game which finished because vandals got under the covers on the 4th evening and poured oil on the pitch and generally roughed it up. At the time, Australia were 220 for 3, chasing 445, a really enticing final day in prospect. But I remember that in fact it rained all day anyway, so probably the match would never have come to a natural conclusion. But England went to the Oval, the final test, full of hope. Alas for them, Ian Chappell won the toss, and Australia, in glorious weather, scored 532 on the first 2 days. England made 191 and had to follow on, despite David Steele's 39.
But in much brighter conditions on the Monday and against the odds, England fought a rearguard action, with Edridge, Steele again, and a wonderfully patient Bob Woolmer leading the way.
I got 60-odd. John Edridge got 90-odd. I think John got 96. And everybody got runs. They all went in, and I think we finished up with 600 or 500 or something like that. And I think really to finish off like that against the Australians after, you know, 74, which was a really horrendous, terrible thing, and then to come in 75 and really shown that we could still play and you know, a bit of spirit. And it was nice that I contributed as well to, you know, to hold them together a little bit, which was great.
David Steele had been the catalyst for English resistance during the summer of '75. By his own admission, he was a bread-and-butter player with no frills. so he was very much surprised when he received a rare honour for a cricketer, Sportsman of the Year. The visit to the West Indies in 1976 brought no respite from the fast bowling barrage. Far from it. The West Indies attack was led by Andy Roberts and Michael Holding, and they had the massive Wayne Daniel in support. It required batting of the most courageous kind. One particular spell at Old Trafford on the Saturday evening came in for savage condemnation as John Edrich and Brian Close were subjected to bouncer after bouncer. In that particular match, England failed to score 200 runs in all, with extras the main contributor to their match aggregate. When the sides assembled at the Oval for the last test, England were 2-0 down.
It was probably the greatest feat of fast bowling I've ever seen from Michael Holding, who bowled super quick on a perfect batting wicket. And he got 14 wickets in the match. And also the comeback of Dennis Amiss with his new style helmet, or motorbike helmet it really was in those days. And he hadn't played in the series, and yet he'd got 100 in the test trial before the series started, and he wasn't selected for the series. And here he was coming in at the Oval, 5th test match against this formidable pace attack, and with a new style of playing, shuffling across his stumps and working the onside, getting that side of the ball all the time.
Amiss started his marathon on the evening of the second day. His opening partner, Bob Woolmer, went early the following morning, leg before to Holding, the first of his 8 victims in the innings. David Steele was the only top-order English batsman to have scored a century in the series, and batting with Amiss for the first significant length of time found a partner beset by doubts.
When I got to him, he was about 60 or not out, and of course he was going through his 4th theory of about 5 years. You know, he was doing this quick step business, this back foot across and, you know, shuffle and then in. And anything round about middle and leg, he was flipping it through mid-wicket like a bullet, you know. He said, how do you think I'm doing? I said, doing? I said, you're 75 on the board. I said, well, never mind about you. What about me? Right, how am I doing? Well, you are you, Carl. I said, well, me? I said, I'm 20. Right, and I'm fighting here.
Willie provided Amiss with additional support, and the 100 came in appropriate fashion with a 4-off Holding.
Julian's given up the chase, it goes through for 4. And a tremendous comeback this by Dennis Amiss. Recalled to this England side, 1 or 2 people having serious misgivings about his ability to deal with the pace. He's answered him in the best possible fashion. Short again. And that's through for 4 more. That's a good, firm, straight drive, and this really has been a fine exhibition by Amiss. That's through the offside for 4. Cracked away off the back foot, and that boundary to Amiss brings up the 300.
Monday morning saw Amiss to his double century.
And that also is 4, and it's his double 100. It was over Greenwich's head. Dennis Amiss goes to 203.
But then he shuffled across once too often to Michael Holding.
And has bowled him. He's gone over too far. He's left the leg stump wide open. And Dennis Amiss out for 203. The man to strike again, Michael Holding.
If I can put it like this, if anybody gave a V sign to the selectors, Dennis Amiss did on that occasion. I can't recall a greater comeback type innings throughout my career, and it was a great achievement.
Amiss's double 100 wasn't enough to save England, and with 80 minutes to spare on the final day, Holding fittingly took the final wicket to become the first West Indian to take more than 12 wickets in a test match. England won in India in 1976-77, never an easy place to win a test series, and then went to Melbourne for the centenary test match. Derek Randall played perhaps his greatest innings in that game, and behind the scenes, secret negotiations were going on for the start of the Packer Revolution. It probably disrupted Australia initially more than it did England, and Australia's chances of winning the Ashes in 1977 weren't enhanced by the fact that Jeff Boycott returned from his self-imposed exile of 30 matches. During that game, he became only the second batsman in the history of the game to bat on all 5 days.
there was high drama during the match because he ran out the local hero, Derek Randall, called for a terrible run, and Randall was stranded at the other end of the pitch, and although he's one of the quickest movers in the country, Rod Marsh had the bails off and the stumps out of the ground, and Randall was well and truly run out. Jeffrey was never the most popular member of any dressing room, but you always wanted him the side to score runs. I remember him saying to me once, you know, it's one thing being popular in the dressing room, but the side doesn't half need my runs. And in those days when Boycott was batting on a flat wicket, you knew you could throw your bowling boots in the corner for the day.
Trent Bridge was also notable for the debut of a man who was to have a massive impact on English cricket, Ian Terence Botham, who on the first day took 5 for 74, which included a spell of 4 for 13 in 34 balls.
And he's bowling, first ball. Oh, what a return. Look at Botham, absolutely delighted. His first wicket in Test match cricket, and what a scalp to get.
Oh, good catch. The finer of those two gullies. Henrik has got it again.
If I'm honest, I probably thought I should have played the year before. Certainly felt I was going on I thought I should have gone on the tour to it was India and Australia, the centenary tour, but that wasn't to be. So no, I was very confident. I was bowling well. In fact, my game was good at the time, performing well all round, and I forced my way in a little bit. But the biggest problem I had was convincing, really. I think. Particularly Mike Brearley, that I was a genuine all-rounder and better than the ones he had. But once I got out there and got the chance, it fell in place nicely.
That's just high there, and he's out, he's caught. Botham takes another wicket. That's his 5th in the innings, 5 wickets to date out of 9 that have fallen.
5 for 21, and I knew I was going to be lucky when Jeff Thompson bowled to me. I nicked it, Greg Chappell caught it, no ball. Then the next ball he bowled, I nicked it, Greg Chappell dropped it, legit delivery. So I knew that someone like me.
People use the term lucky about Botham. For long periods of his career, you don't end up getting 370 test wickets and 5,000 test match runs by being lucky.
Oh no, keeps putting him down.
Things went his way in that particular match. He grabbed the headlines. Good luck to him.
2-0 up, and the stage was set at Headingley for Jeff Boycott to score his 100th 100 on his home ground. He got number 99 a few days before at Edgbaston, and there was an air almost of inevitability as he approached the moment of history, the first man to score his 100th 100 in a test match.
The Yorkshire faithful counting every run as Boycott inched his way to the 100, and then Greg Chappell bowled him that juicy half volley which he smashed through mid-on, down the hill to the football stand, and the crowd erupted. It was a real Yorkshire experience, and Jeffrey was overcome with emotion. His arms went aloft. He was trying to appreciate what was going on around him, and so much so that he ignored Graham Root, the other batsman, when he came up to congratulate him.
Boycott was last out for 191, by which time he'd been batting for 22 and a half hours against the Australians since his return to Test cricket earlier that summer. Enough for any team, you'd think. They were both out for 103, with Ian Botham taking another 5 wickets, and that was pretty well enough to ensure that Boycott would not be required to bat again in that game. England won by an innings and 85 runs, and with the victory came the Ashes.
Yeah, Derek Randall is under it. He's taken it safely, and the Ashes are regained by England for only the 3rd time this century. And the England captain, Mike Brearley, must be the most delighted man in the country today.
The advent of Kerry Packer's World Series cricket led to a dramatically changed cast of characters on the World Test scene, but it probably advanced the first opportunity for a batsman of rare grace in England's side against Pakistan in 1978.
And the new batsman now is David Gower, and about to face his first ball in Test cricket.
I was a little bit nervous, yes. Anyone would be at their first Test match, age 21. I didn't know what to expect exactly. It wasn't I have to say, it wasn't the greatest strength Pakistan side that's ever played. But I was actually quite grateful. A little long hop, which from, say, a better bowler or a quicker bowler might have been something potentially nastier, presented itself as a nice opportunity, and it was pure instinct. I mean, nothing more than that. I saw the ball and did what instinct told me to do, which was hit it as hard as I could and got 4 for it.
A relatively simple chance put down did little to deter the Gower repertoire.
in the air, and he's put him down. Here's Iqbal Kazim bowling to Gower on 47. He's not now, he's on 51. There was a good delivery from Iqbal Kazim, and he clouted it away past point with perfect timing. It's in the air. Javed Miandad at cover has caught it.
A not-so-elegant way to conclude what had been a delight for the crowd, and the opposition seemed to sense that here was a star in the making. By now, the ingredients of a very good England side were coming together under the captaincy of Mike Brearley. And in Australia in 1978-79, the Ashes were won comfortably against a depleted Australian side in a most entertaining series by 5 matches to 1. The following year, Botham achieved the fastest test double of 1,000 runs and 100 wickets in only 21 tests. And following Brearley's retirement, he took over the captaincy. But 2 series against the West Indies almost knocked the stuffing out of Botham. They were never his favourite opponents. He always tried to attack and seldom came out on top. Australia were a different matter, but when he led England against them in 1981, England lost the first test, and at Lord's, Botham himself made an ignominious pair in a drawn game. He jumped as captain before he was pushed by the selectors, and the famous decision to recall Mike Brearley was made. English cricket was in for a dramatic couple of months. But when Australia scored 401 at Headingley and then forced England to follow on after bowling them out for 174, winning the Ashes seemed almost a foregone conclusion for Australia, a chance for humiliation at the expense of the old enemy. The bags were packed in the England hotel on the morning of the 4th day, and when Bob Taylor was 7th out, with England still 92 runs in arrears, it seemed a wise decision.
The game was all over. Just said I'm going to enjoy myself. And that's exactly what I told Graham Dilley when he came out, and suddenly things changed. But that's sport. So that was just a freak. It wasn't the best knock I've ever played by any means.
It's 4 runs.
Yep, that's beaten him. 4 more.
It wasn't a brilliant innings. Ian would be the first to say it was a complete slog. He just went out there and slogged. Kim Hughes just had the fielders in the wrong position and he wouldn't bowl Ray Bright. Ian got the taste for it and smacked them all round the park.
And there is the 100 partnership between Ian Botham and Graham Dilley. And a lovely way for Graham Dilley to get his maiden Test 50.
They're looking for that, let alone chasing it. It's going straight into the confectionery stall and out again.
He went out there in a hopeless position, and he really just started to play shots all around the wicket, just as a sort of gesture, really. And he just kept going, he just kept hitting the ball in the spaces, hitting the ball over the boundary, the 6s and 4s. And it just, you know, it's sort of innings you might calculate to score 50, but not 150 almost. And he gave us an outside chance.
Safely away before. That's a splendid 100. A great innings by Ian Botham.
Oh, magnificent stroke. 4 more runs. The atmosphere in that Test match, on the field on that final morning, is the best that you can ever play under. The tension was unbelievable, but in a way you were far better being out in the field than you were. The people in the pavilion had no chance. It was so nerve-wracking for them, but they could do nothing about it.
The pitch by now was unreliable, but needing only 130 to win, Australia was still favourites. The odds on an England win certainly weren't the 500 to 1 that they'd been when Marsh and Lilly had a sporting bet, but with John Dyson battling with determination and the score getting to 56 for 1, 74 more runs, even in these conditions, should have been comfortably within Australia's reach.
In fact, I was 4th change bowler in the second innings. Mike opened with Graham Dilley and Ian Botham. And then when I came on to bowl, I was put on at the football stand end, an end which I always hated bowling from. So I went up to Mike Brearley. I said, I'm too old now to be bowling uphill into the wind. I need to have a go at the other end, and things just clicked from that end.
Trevor Chappell really had no chance. Very good piece of bowling from Bob Willis.
The wicket was deteriorating. There was a lot of indifferent bounce, mostly upwards rather than downwards, and it just all happened for us.
Oh, what a good catch. Everything is running for Botham. Runs, wickets and catches, and the Australian captain goes for naught. And it's 58 for 3. Oh, good catch. Super catch that. Marvellous reflex action there. Yallop is gone without scoring.
And he's out, he's gone. Played on. Chris Hill gets his first wicket of the match. 65 for 5.
Some brilliant catches, both of them in the slips, Gatting at short leg, and Graham Dilley under a lot of pressure down at long leg to dismiss Rod Marsh.
In the air, Dilley is underneath it. And he's got it! A very, very good catch indeed in the circumstances. Yes, he's got a touch and he's gone. Willis has taken his 6th wicket. Lawson out for 1, and England on the brink of an absolutely sensational victory.
Dennis Lilly was always going to be dangerous down the order because I kept bowling the same length, which was shorter a length to him, and he kept uppercutting the ball over the slips to the very short boundary down to the football stand. So it wasn't until we got him out that we really thought we were home and dry.
Oh, what a good catch. And Lilly has miscued it to mid-on. Gatting didn't sight it to start with. Couldn't pick it up in the background, then got it. And it needed a dive forward to take a great catch. 110 for 9.
You knew that there was something in the air, as it were, something about to happen. You knew that if you just kept it going, you could win it. And so when we won it there, it was almost a relief more than anything else. And it does take a while for those things to sink in.
Bowl in, it's all over, and it is one of the most fantastic victories ever known in Test cricket history.
It had been a 24-hour transformation, the like of which had never been seen before in a Test in England, and a remarkable turnaround for Ian Botham, who'd been greeted in an embarrassed silence at Lord's 14 days previously, but was now acclaimed a national hero at Headingley. Bob Willis, considered to be in the twilight of his career, had produced the performance of his life. No one who was there watching it, let alone playing in the game, could ever forget it.
The Australians were very confident of victory, and so they should have been. And I think they, in the dressing room at Headingley, they filled their bath with champagne for the expectant victory. And it's always a great memory because we ended up drinking the champagne, having won.
The Australians were never ever going to recover in that series from that. And psychologically, there was only ever going to be one side to win after that, and I was on a roll.
England had done what no other side has achieved in this century. They'd won a Test match after following on, but it was surely a freakish result, and Australia still had plenty of reason for confidence when they went to the next Test match at Edgbaston. After being narrowly on top of England in a match in which no one scored a personal 50, Australia needed 151 only to win, and at 96 for 3 they seemed home and dry.
It's almost ridiculous to contemplate 6 wickets falling for 60 on a track where the ball isn't doing very much, but contemplate it we must because of the stirring events of Headingley.
Australia had done most of the hard work. They got themselves into a winning position. That man again, Ian Botham, handing the ball. He didn't really want to bowl in that last session of play, but Mike Brearley, the knack of Mike Brearley, persuaded him to bowl. Said, look, you are our man, you're the man who can do it.
What happened was, we were looking to get a breakthrough, and Brearley said, do you fancy a go? And I said, well, we've just got, the only wicket we've got was with, Ember's got one to bounce, and we gloved it. And I said to him, well, why don't you try Pete Willey for a couple, because he really rips it. I said, we haven't got much to play with, I know, but just try him for a couple of overs. And he was over an hour about it. Then we got a wicket, and then I said, well, now I should bowl him. And I did.
Bowled him. 114 for 6. Rodney Marsh goes, trying to hit it away through mid-on, across the line. He's out. LBW. First ball, and Botham's on a hat-trick.
Australia again trying to get a small total to win. crumbled under the pressure. There were some horrendous cricket strokes played by them. Ian picked up those 5 wickets for 1 run when we really had no chance of victory and no right to victory at all. But it worked again. Ian worked the oracle, and we were home and dry.
Facing. That's it this time. He's made sure he's taken 5 wickets. He grabs the stump, and another memorable victory for England.
What happened in 1981 seems to have sown seeds of doubt in Australian minds whenever, in future years, they've had to face a low total in the 4th innings. As Kim Hughes said at the time, probably if they'd had to face 300 or something, they would have got it quite easily. But Botham had become an immovable obstacle to Australia's progress, and the 5th Test at Old Trafford was to emphasise that dramatically. After scoring just 231, England bowled Australia out for 130, but tottered to a perilous 104 for 5 in their 2nd innings.
The Headingley innings was fun for him. I mean, nothing more than that. It started as fun, it started as just a bit of a romp, and then it became something serious. Whereas at Old Trafford, it was a serious innings all the way through, but brilliant. And he just seemed to be in from the moment he got in. The ball disappeared, whether it was Terry Alderman dropping it a fraction short and being pulled over my wide mid-wicket, or whether Dennis Lilly would drop it short and Ian would close his eyes and hook it off his eyebrows. It really was scintillating stuff. And I mean, a lot of players get sort of averagely blasé about watching the game, and I was one of them at times.
And they mustn't give him room outside the off stump. In the air, and again he's beaten Whitney and Wood away there at deep square. They're just not learning at all, the Australian bowlers. At Headingley they gave Botham room to play his strokes. Here they're doing it again, and he smashed them for a quick 50. In the air for 6. He plays that shot very well. He doesn't bother looking at it. He just swats it away like a, well, as though you're smashing a fly.
When you're playing in a match, you don't necessarily watch every ball. But when Ian Botham is in that sort of mood, then you are compelled to watch.
Well, that one didn't. Lilly's there. It's cleared him over the ropes. What a magnificent way to go to a 6. What a superlative exhibition this has been. And the whole of Old Trafford rising to its feet to acclaim yet another memorable, magnificent performance from Ian Botham.
Botham's quite brilliant 118 set up a victory by 103 runs, and the Ashes were retained. Indeed, he would have to wait until the Brisbane Test of 1986 to play another innings of anything like the same calibre, as he acknowledges.
It was one of the best. That one and probably the one in Brisbane are 2 that spring to mind. But those 2 stand out in my own mind. I think there's the 200 against India and other scores, but I think that those 2 stand out in my... just because they were technically and under the circumstances as well, both under a bit of pressure, but both were technically good knocks. I don't think there was any chances given. And I took the bull by the horns, and I enjoyed those.
But the glories of 1981 couldn't be repeated, and in the next few years England were badly depleted by bans on players who'd been to South Africa, Gooch, Boycott, J.K. Lever and Underwood amongst them. In 1982-83, England lost in Australia under Bob Willis, although it wasn't a disastrous defeat, but there were 5 changes of captains in the next 4 years, and England were blackwashed in the West Indies in 1984. Things looked up at last under David Gower in India in 1984-5, when England achieved something historic by coming back after losing the first test to win the series. So everybody was very hopeful when the Australians returned to England in 1985. In a 6-match series, the first 2 tests were shared and the next 2 drawn, and there was therefore all to play for at Edgbaston. Rain interrupted the first 2 days, and Australia still had 2 wickets remaining at the start of the 3rd. If England were to have any chance of victory, they needed a big score, and they needed to get it quickly.
We bowled Australia out, which was a good start, and then we got our runs quickly. Tim Robinson played well. I was, we say, happy enough with my 200. You don't get too many of those in Test match cricket. And the great thing was we scored those runs quickly. So we gave ourselves a chance.
That's one for the memory. And even the bowler is clapping the stroke and the century. As Gower has gone on now to 101. Really smashed that away past Whistles at short leg. Thompson to Gower. Pretty to watch. There's a good shot. Picked that nicely. Got himself to the pitch of the ball and hit it beautifully straight.
That's threw mid off for 4 runs. And even without a slip, he can't block all the gaps. And applause there for the 250 partnership. Still to be Holland. He's picked that one up with the swing out towards long on. Is it cleared? Yes, under the 2 arms. Aloft, it's 6 runs to David Gower. Oh, he's gone for another one. Cracked this straight and a fine stroke for 4 this time. 300 goes up. Gower puts on the pressure. It's a beautiful stroke through the offside. Races away for 4 runs. And nobody lead run for that one either. Well, that was a bad ball as Hollett comes back short outside the off stump, crashed through the offside by Gower, and it's 4 again. 3:37, England have gone ahead. And he's rounded off the day with an absolutely glorious extra cover drive. No doubt about that. Glorious extra cover drive from David Gower brings him past the 200 mark. A magnificent innings, his best in Test match cricket, just nipping past his previous 200 here, which he made against India in 1979. Well, 4 now for Mike Gatting.
There was no let-up, as Gatting also made a century, and Botham responded to the wishes of the crowd, first ball.
What about that? That is quite incredible. Quite incredible. First ball, bunked for 6. And there's another one, 6 more to follow. He's crashed that away on the leg side this time. And that's another great hoik out to deep square. And he's been beautifully taken.
Totally demoralised, the Australians started disastrously as Richard Ellison ripped through the top order, swinging the ball away to take 4 wickets in 15 balls. Victory seemed assured.
And his LBW first ball, so Ellison's on a hat-trick. Ellison again to Wood. Slobbed in the air, gentle, anybody going for it? Oh, a word, yes. A long delay there.
Richard Ellison bowled beautifully. The ball was swinging for him. And the key wicket, as ever, against Australia in that era was Alan Border's.
Well, what about that? Border goes clean bowled by Ellison, 36 for 5. Real drama.
And we got rid of him on that Monday night, and it looked like everything was falling into place with 1 day to go. Weather didn't help us on the 5th day. I woke up, in fact, to a phone call from my man Holmes, who said, what's the weather like today? I said, well, I'm not quite sure. I've not looked out yet. He was amazed that the England captain hadn't been up at 6 o'clock checking on the weather, because in fact it was drizzling, and we didn't start on time. It took us a long time to get on the field, and again, the key point on that final day was the catch off Alan Lamb's boot. Wayne Phillips had been batting very well, the left-hander, their keeper. Looked like holding out and saving them a draw. But it came off Lamb's boot. I looked round just in time, found it in my hands. The umpires gave the right decision, give them credit. I mean, the Australians have never been happy about this one, but it was the right decision. Gave him out. We wrapped up the Test match. So one more victory to England, 2-1 up in the series, and 1 to play. So an important test match that one.
Botham's done it again, 142 all out. And England winning a test match, a thoroughly deserved victory. A game in which they've outplayed Australia with bat, with ball and in the field.
And so to the Oval, where victory or a draw would ensure that the Ashes were regained. Gower knew how important it was to win the toss and bat first, and that's exactly what he did.
The onus was on us to make a big score, so Graham Gooch and I are out there. Tim Robinson got out quickly, and there was a bit of a torrid time early on with the new ball when Craig McDermott bowled very well, and I had just a little bit of luck early on.
And Lawson from the pavilion end to Graham Gooch. It's a lovely shot, threw it off, it'll race away for 4 runs.
I hadn't had a lot of success against Australia. On my first tour there in 78-79, I had a poor series. I got a few runs the following series against them and then was dropped in the 81 series at the end of the season for lack of success. So to come back in 85 and score 190 at the Oval in one of the matches was a bit of a relief. David Gower played superbly that day as captain. He really took the Australians apart and really set up the victory for us, which enabled us to take the series 3-1.
Oh, lovely stroke, lent into that again, stroked it through the offside for 4 more.
Too short. It's been the problem with the bowlers for much of the time.
Rest. But his accuracy's all awry, and that's 100 for David Gower. Another test match century for the England captain, and life is pretty good for him at the moment.
By the time we got into our swing, I think that's as well as I've played against Australia. I mean, I've had some quite good times against them over the years, but for me that was an important knock, because as captain I was desperate to win the series and win the Ashes. For the side it was important, for me it was important, and we needed to get off that good start on that first day.
Bennett again. Well, it's a short one which you can't bowl the Gooch. With 140 odd on the board, it's 4 more, 320 up, and that means a 300 partnership. Golden days for English cricket this summer.
The Oval has always been a good place to bat as a test batsman. It's an excellent pitch to play on, and certainly that day everything right for us, and the Australians ended up chasing the leather all round the ground, and that was nice to see on our part, because you know, been on the end of a few beatings from Australia in recent times, but that day was our day, and to put on 350 and to be a very entertaining day as well was very satisfying.
England finished with 464, of which Gooch and Gower contributed all but 111. Paul Downton with 16 was England's next highest scorer. Botham and Ellison then took 12 wickets between them, and Australia were beaten by an innings and 94 runs. In fact, it was the first time since 1956 that England had beaten Australia by an innings twice in succession. A second blackwash by the West Indies, this time in the Caribbean, was followed by a defeat in the first test of the summer against India. David Gower was sacked as captain and replaced by Mike Gatting, but England lost both to India and to New Zealand. Spirit was low, lacking the Botham gusto. He'd been banned for 2 months for taking drugs, but he returned at the Oval for the final test of the summer, needing just 1 wicket to equal Dennis Lilly's 355.
And a fairy tale start. Bruce Edgar is the man to provide the scenario. And Graham Gooch, the man at slip.
Beautifully bowled, right into the bat.
Just the suggestion of in-swing, and Ian Botham has become the greatest wicket-taker of all time. He beats Dennis Lilly. Not only jubilation here at the Oval, but I'm sure ripples all around the world as Botham takes his 356th Test wicket, and Jeff Crow is the victim.
Even with Botham back in the fold, the omens didn't look good for the visit to Australia later that winter. In fact, coming into the Brisbane Test, the first of the series, England had lost 8 and drawn 3 of their last 11 matches.
When the England side left to go to Australia in the autumn of 1986, their chances were not good. According to the Australians, according to pundits at home, they basically weren't supposed to be a very good side. At the end of the first month, Martin Johnson in the Independent wrote, "There are only 3 things this side cannot do. They cannot bowl, they cannot bat, they cannot field," which is pretty comprehensive. Fortunately, by the end of the tour, he was able to rewrite that and say, right quote, wrong team.
Throughout the series, England got off to good starts, whether it was with bat or ball. At the end of the opening day of the first test at Brisbane, they were 198 for 2, but after losing 2 early wickets the following morning with the score unchanged, that could have been for 5 if Gower hadn't been dropped. The match then changed in an instant.
It was a difficult chance, but one that Australia really needed to take.
Yeah, Dave got dropped off naught at slip, and then he got 50, I think, and I got 130 odd. And I remember the new ball coming, and that disappeared a long way.
When he hits them, they stay hit. Hit that in the air, and that's going down towards the mid-wicket boundary.
The England all-rounder looking very keen to impress this local crowd.
He's gone for it again. There's a man down there, but that one's wide of the man.
That one's in the air, but very safe. There's only one man in front of the wicket on the onside, and he won't cut it off. Really reaches for that one. Gets a thick edge on it, and it's well and truly over the third-man boundary. Just a well-hit foul in baseball, but that is probably a home run.
Oh, and that one smashed away through the gully, wide of the squarest of the 2 of them, and into the boundary for 4. And Reed again. It's a short ball, and Botham this time smashing it away high and square. 1 bounce, 2 bounces into the fence.
He had a tremendous belt away on the offside.
Hughes is on his way. He's hit that one square of the wicket. Will it get to the boundary? Matthews is flying around. He saves it. Botham comes back for the second, and that takes him on to 99. Botham on 99. Hughes the bowler. Straight down the ground. Beautifully played, and that brings up Ian Botham's century. This really has been a magnificent batting performance by one of the greatest all-rounders of all time. And now he really is going to go. He smashed that Miles. It's gone way over the top of deep square leg. Well, he's going to cut loose now, that's for sure. What a magnificent shot. A short ball there from Hughes, and Botham smashed it over the top of square leg for 6.
People should savour every moment they can watch this player. They only come once in a lifetime, and Botham, the audacity having made his 100, to stick the next one straight over the greyhound track.
Hughes again to Botham. Another short ball. He smashed that one to mid-wicket. This will bounce once or twice and into the boundary down in that area. That's not sensible bowling by Hughes. That one's well pitched up, and this one smashed straight down the ground. He really is cutting loose. He's murdering Hughes. 18 off the over. And he's hit that one straight down the ground too. Will the fieldsman cut it off? I doubt it. Straight into the boundary it goes. 22 runs off the over. And what a player he is.
It's just one of those days they bowled at the right slot, and we latched onto it. But then everyone latched into Phil de Freitas' zone. 40 odd. I think it's probably his first game. Well, certainly first game overseas, if not his first game ever. And you could see the Australians sinking. It's a lovely feeling.
That one has gone way back. That's heading towards the Sir Gordon chalk stand. So that's his 4th 6.
A comfortable 7-wicket win followed, and a victorious tour was underway.
Mike Gatting's leadership was impeccable, apart from the one day he failed to pitch up at the start of the Victoria match and slept in a bit. But it was a happy tour, it was a fun tour. The cricket that England played was good cricket. Good team effort, as I say. The batsmen got their runs, the bowlers took their wickets. The fielding was good. And you really can't ask for much more than that. It was a very good tour, against all the odds.
Chris Broad was establishing himself as the player of the series, and with Gower and Gatting both showing excellent form with the bat too, a confident England side went to the fourth test in Melbourne, one up with 2 to play. Gladstone Small came in as a last-minute replacement for Graham Dilley, and after Gatting put the Australians in, it was Small and Ian Botham who effectively sealed the destiny of the Ashes.
I'd actually had a rib injury and ripped an intercostal and did it quite badly. And the problem with one of those is that they usually take about 2 months to repair properly. But Laurie Brown, the then England physio, worked with me 4 times a day, and we got it right, or as near as damn it right. And I played in that game, admittedly probably only at about 75%. And the Aussies kept on nicking it, or missing it, or hitting it in the air.
And taken by Jack Richards. And that is a great blow for England. Oh, and he's got him. Keeper going after it, Jack Richards, Small coming in, and Richards is the one who gets it. Marvellous catch there by the keeper, Richards.
Botham.
Big appeal there for caught behind. He's gone. That's Botham's 5th wicket. He's equalled the world record for 5 wickets in an innings.
It was really quite amazing, because it's probably, technically as a bowler, it was probably one of my worst performances. I mean, I was so restricted. But they got out, and Gladstone bowled very, very well.
Well caught. There's a good catch. Not a particularly good shot from Stephen Waugh. That's from Small. And off the outside edge.
And he's been given out.
What a performance by Small and Botham. Between the two of them, they really have seen to it that Australia are now in real trouble.
And there was some good catching at slip. John Embry, I remember taking a couple of blinding catches.
He's out. What a great catch. Just as we said, what a great line. What a catch. The Australian captain hitting out. I can understand.
Oh, there's a mix-up. He's going to have him. He's gone. Run out by a mile.
No, we fielded very, very well, and that was it. We'd won the Ashes. Big celebrations in the dressing room that evening.
2 unhappy series in Pakistan were followed by an inconclusive one in New Zealand. And in 1988, Mike Gatting lost his job as England captain in controversial circumstances after the first test against the West Indies. England were badly mauled in the rest of that series, and in 1989 things, if anything, were even worse against Australia. So morale was low and badly in need of picking up, and in Graham Gooch, England found the right man at last. They won the series against New Zealand in the first part of 1990, and then came a dramatic test at Lord's.
Essex had just come off the back of a great victory at Colchester against Lancashire, where I fortunately got a few runs in the last innings and batted quite a long time. So on that first day, I was pretty tired, and I had a bit of luck being dropped on 30.
Oh dear.
But for the next 9.5 hours or so of his innings, Gooch hardly gave another chance. There was a half chance through the slips when he was past 150, and an easier one immediately after 300. For the rest of the time, Gooch was simply majestic.
And that looks as though it's just gone past extra cover.
Lovely shot. Oh, well, this time he knew what was going on and where it was going to. 6 runs.
That finds the gap. The offside there is well loaded with fielders.
That could be it. No doubt it is it. What a nice way to bring up your 100.
That's a lovely shot.
When I was 190 not out at the end of the first day, you know, it's a fantastic feeling to go to dinner that night. I think I went with Doug Insole and Norma for to be 190 not out, knowing you've got the whole day in front of you. But even then, I didn't think, you know, you go on to get 300. But as it sort of got past 250 and the thing rolls on, you start to think about it. You get a little bit nervous about how things are going to go.
And classical cover drive from Graham Gooch, whose 250 comes up, 252.
When I was at tea, I don't remember what I had for tea, I probably had a cup of tea, and I was pretty nervous to make sure that when you get so close, you're not going to make a silly mistake. And you know, after I got the triple century, then I just cut loose a little bit, and you know, afterwards, people said to me, well, why don't you go on and try and break the record? And I didn't think of it at the time. I just thought about us having to declare the innings and have a bowl at the Indians. And again, I only kicked myself afterwards when I was out for 3:33, thinking, well, I should have been a bit more conservative. We had enough time that evening. I should have went on and tried to maybe break the record, but I only think about it afterwards.
Botham, probably got an inside edge. Success finally. Gooch goes 333.
The end, when it came, was from one of the few tired-looking strokes Gooch had made during his 633-minute stay. 333 is the highest first-class score at Lord's and the third highest test score by an Englishman behind Len Hutton and Wally Hammond. The poor Indian bowlers suffered another Gooch 100 in the second innings, the only time 100 and a triple 100 have been scored in the same first-class match.
I just feel fortunate that I had the opportunity to score a triple 100. Not a lot of players in first-class cricket get the opportunity because there's not enough time available to do it. Fortunately for me, that match went well, and I was able to achieve that. But it's something I look back on with great pride, and think that I was quite fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to do that.
Defeat against Australia and New Zealand in the winter wasn't exactly the ideal preparation for a home series against the West Indies. But in fact, in 1991, England were to produce their best cricket against the West Indies since the early 1970s. Two men stood out that summer, the captain Graham Gooch and the left-arm spinner Phil Tufnell. And the reliance on Gooch for the batting was never more evident than in the first test at Headingley. Not an easy place to bat on in those days, and neither side got to 200 in their first innings. Then, in England's second innings, Gooch was confronted by the formidable West Indies quartet of Malcolm, Ambrose, Walsh and Patterson. He produced what he regards and what most regard as the finest performance of his long batting career.
I think in the context of Test cricket and my Test career, that innings was my best. The 300 at Lord's is a great achievement, but the opposition wasn't quite of the standard of the West Indies, and the conditions were more in the batsman's favour at Lord's. At Headingley, it is often a difficult place to bat if overhead conditions suit the bowler, i.e. if it's cloudy and it starts to rain, it's a bit cold up there. It's a very difficult place to score runs. And it's a low-scoring match, and we were up against it a little bit in the second innings.
Oh my word, a brilliant catch. Wonderful catch there by Geoffrey Dujon. Oh dear me, that's the end of Atherton.
England certainly were up against it. Atherton was brilliantly caught by Dujon, and with Ambrose in full cry, Hick soon followed.
Well, that's very well bowled by Ambrose.
An inauspicious start to Hick's Test career, failing to reach double figures in the match.
Alan Lamb is the new batsman. 38 for 2. Oh, well, he's on a hat-trick. Lamb has gone. A similar stroke to the one he played in the first innings. It's 38 for 3, and now England in disarray.
One of England's other newcomers, Mark Ramprakash, then provided much-needed support, but neither batsman looked comfortable, particularly against Ambrose. Another brilliant catch by Dujon, Ramprakash making another 27, and incredibly Ambrose, for the second time in the innings, was to be on a hat-trick. At 124 for 6, with Ambrose taking all 6, England's lead of 149 looked decidedly slender, but Gooch found much-needed support in the shape of his Essex colleague, Derek Pringle.
I feel this slowed just a little. As he Very good stroke from Graham Gooch. His partnership now has taken the score from 124 to 169. Beautiful. Oh, that's a good shot. 50 stand between Gooch and Pringle.
Well, that just might be it, and is. And the crowd, it's only a sparse one, but they're standing. And that really is a wonderful 100. Not only in the context of the match, but just look at that for a reception. The conditions, the attack.
With Gooch past 100 and the new ball in sight, England's captain cut loose for the first time in the innings, taking England past 200 with a series of superb drives.
Two very fine shots played by Gooch in the last 2 overs, one off Marshall and now off Courtney Walsh. Beautiful stroke. Just a little flick. Not a full-blooded pull, but it still landed 3 parts of the way to the boundary.
Great shot. If anything's in the wrong area now, he's so quickly onto it.
The new ball broke the partnership, 2 short of the 100. Pringle's contribution, an invaluable 27. Another 2 hours were lost in the afternoon, and when play resumed after tea, the West Indies quickly wrapped up the innings, but not before Gooch had passed 150.
That's 150 for Graham Gooch.
Undefeated for 154, Gooch was the first to carry his bat for England since boycott against Australia at Perth in 1979-80. Only 3 England batsmen had reached double figures, but a lead of 277 was formidable. When De Freitas claimed a wicket with his first ball, England was set up for victory on the final day, which was achieved by a margin of 115 runs.
England hadn't beaten the West Indies in England for I don't know, 20-odd years up until that stage. And it was a great test for us, and you know, but as far as technically and character-wise, that certainly would rate as my best test innings.
The West Indies quickly set about making amends, and when they came to the last test match at the Oval, they were 2-1 up. It was Viv Richards' final test match, and he was keen to go out with a bang. England did make a reasonable score, though, thanks to Robin Smith's 109, but the West Indies, on a hot Saturday afternoon, were proceeding serenely in reply at 95 for 1.
Ah, there it is. Here Botham gets his man, Richie Richardson, flashing outside the off stump. Oh, that's it, beautifully bowled. Maybe a little movement away off the seam, but it climbed.
With Richardson and Hooper gone, that left Clayton Lambert and Haynes together. The left-hander Lambert, playing in his first test, attacked from the start, and the score progressed to 158 for 3.
Yes, no captain can set fields for this. Medium pace, short of the length. The batsmen are going to crucify a medium pacer on this pitch if you bowl short.
Gooch somewhat belatedly turned to Tufnell, playing in his first test of the series, and the left-armer struck with his very first ball.
Must have been worth a try of spin against him earlier than this. Well, that's his answer, and the first ball, and he's got him. Now then, Stewart first up to Tufnell. Oh, first and last. Lawrence strikes, catches Dujan on the back foot, the ball nipped back and absolutely plumb.
When Lawrence trapped Dujan LBW first ball, panic set in as Tufnell continued to mesmerise the batsman, and suddenly the prospect of the West Indies not getting past the follow-on total of 219 looked highly likely. Richards, batting down the order because of illness, was well caught by Stewart, and Haynes could only watch in horror as the tail capitulated.
And Botham has it. Tufnell has another wicket. Bowling into the rough outside the left-hander's off stump, and it is now 172 for 8.
That's very good. That's very well bowled.
Botham's acrobatic catch completed the rout, and Tufnell returned Test best figures of 6 for 24, while Haynes, on 75, carried his bat for the second time in Test cricket. Following on, the West Indies made a much better fist of it, with Richardson making a fine 100. Tufnell took just 1 for 150, but it didn't prevent a fine England victory by 5 wickets and, more important, a squared series against the West Indies for the first time since 1973-4.
Lawrence strikes, and that is exactly what England wanted and West Indies didn't.
Lords in 1994 saw England's first Test match against South Africa for 29 years, and the visitors rose quite magnificently to the occasion, winning the match handsomely. At Headingley the game was drawn, and England went to the final game of the series at the Oval, needing to win both to square the series and to go off to Australia in better heart. It didn't look too good when they were still 100 runs behind on the second evening with 7 wickets down.
God. What a cracking shot.
Good shot. Very good shot. Good shot.
Gough and de Freitas took England from well over 100 in arrears of South Africa's total to within 30 of it. And if that didn't provide enough inspiration, de Villiers' first ball to Malcolm sealed their fate.
Devon gave Pani de Villiers a couple when he batted.
I walked into bat and I could hear all the guys, all the guys said, come on, yeah. But it was a good bounce. I just stood there, and by the time I moved, it clunked straight between the eyes. Lucky thing I had a good helmet on, mind you. But I was pretty upset. I mean, I got on well with, Alan Donald and stuff like that. And walking off, he went up to me and asked me if I'm all right. And believe me, I just looked at him like that. I just saw right through him. I said, look, don't ask me that. You're dead, And that was the general feeling, I mean, yeah, I was a bit cheesed off, yeah. But, I mean, that, as I said, was just last resort, a bit of extra fuel for the fire because, we had to win that game.
Unconvincing. Got him.
And even after, I went out there, took all those wickets, it really didn't sunk in. And when we won the game, all of a sudden he started coming in and said, oh yeah, that's great now.
Got him.
Malcolm's 9 for 57, spanning 3 spells, is the 6th best analysis ever recorded in Test cricket. Where Malcolm can so often be wayward, here he had perfect rhythm. Not once did he bowl a wide or a no ball.
Done it again. A great catch by Steve Rhodes.
I wouldn't say that was the best of bowled. I've bowled better and don't take the wickets, but as it happens, the edges go to the slip, so the catches were held, LBs were given, and as I said, success beats success.
Got him. 9 wickets for Malcolm. The last Englishman to get 9 in England was Jim Laker.
In any other circumstances, 204 to win might be a difficult total, but South Africa was still shell-shocked and allowed Atherton and Gooch to knock off 48 in the first 4 overs.
Well, he covers it.
That's another one drifting down leg side. Very good shot. Very majestic.
There's another.
Again. Yep. That's it. Graham Thorpe punches the air. He wins a Test match on his home ground, and England are home by 8 wickets to square the series.
What an exciting and truly inspirational performance that was. A reminder perhaps that the bulldog spirit still burns very much in the heart of English cricket. Perhaps all that we need to do is get a little bit more consistency, and it would be lovely to have more moments like the ones we've just been enjoying. I'm sure we shall.